my name is Sammy. I wanted to create another video to follow up with my last video about my healing journey and where I've gotten so far going to therapy each week. I wanted to talk about a topic that is really important to me that I've learned a lot about, called Complex PTSD. A lot of people don't know what this is. They don't know what causes it. They aren't even aware that they've experienced it, or they are dealing with the aftermath of it and how to heal from it, or even where it comes from. So if you've never heard of Complex PTSD, basically what it is, at least from a definition that I found online, was repeatedly experienced interpersonal traumatic events like violence, neglect, or abuse, and it's typically in childhood. So this could be something small that leaves a big impact on your brain and your body. It mostly activates your nervous system. Typically when we think of PTSD, it's the big things. It's people experiencing tragic events and reliving that somehow. It's usually people who have gone to war and they, can't do certain things because it will trigger a memory or trigger a reaction in their body and they can't help it. CPTSD is similar, but it's not a big tragic event. With PTSD, it's mostly a short-lived event. CPTSD stands for Complex Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. Typically, it's long-term, and it's something that happens again and again and again and again and again, typically in little instances. The way that PTSD leaves an imprint on the mind and the body, most likely the nervous system, it happens the same exact way in Complex PTSD, but it's not one specific event that you can kind of put your finger on and put a name to it. Typically when this happens, it could be experiencing violence, it could be experiencing neglect, abuse of any kind, and typically the victim believes there's no end in sight. So when they're in this situation, they're put into survival mode, fight, flight, or freeze. And there's also a fourth one I learned about called fawn. When you're in this state of mind, in this survival mode, every time you re-experience the same event, your nervous system reacts the same way that it did the first time. So no matter what, even if it's a different person, even if it's a different time, a different place, your body will still respond the same exact way that it did the very first time it happened. And the only way to change this is to do work on the inner child and to do healing work. So if you're wondering, if you've experienced CPTSD yourself, then you can kind of ask yourself if your caregiver ever neglected you, if you received hot and cold behaviors from them. Sometimes it being warm and lovey, and other times, dismissing you or not giving you the time of day. Along with dismissal, kind of invalidating what you were saying or how you were feeling. Some signs that you know that you've experienced CPTSD could be emotional regulation. Typically, whenever you experience one of these moments that triggers the traumatic flashback that usually happens, or the emotional flashback that happens, that's what it's called, when your body is reactivated and it's doing the same things that it's always done since the very first time your body experienced it and you were put into that survival mode, you usually have trouble with how you're feeling and how to communicate how you're feeling and what to do, what to say, how to think, how to feel. And you can feel very stuck. So experiencing any kind of moment that triggers an emotional flashback, that's how you know you've experienced CPTSD. Another thing is having difficulty with self-perception. So, having your own view of yourself versus what other people tell you they see you as. And if in your mind it's not congruent, that could be a sign that you've experienced CPTSD. A lot of people who have experienced CPTSD can feel shame, they can feel that they're bad, that they're a bad person, that they're unworthy, that they feel responsible for the things that have happened to them, or they might even feel like they're a burden to some people. A lot of times, people who have experienced CPTSD can have interruptions in their consciousness, so this could be being forgetful. They could dissociate a lot. That's another, that's kind of a coping mechanism that the brain develops. I can describe more about that later. People who experience CPTSD often have difficulty with relationships. People that have experienced CPTSD might be attracted to people or might connect with people or want to connect with people who are abusive, who do hurtful things to them, because in childhood, that's how they learned how to connect with people. And in their mind, that connection is what built love. That's what built a relationship, because that's what they learned from their caregiver from the time that they were young, when they were learning how to build connections with people. So sometimes they can't realize that what they're experiencing is actually harming them the same way that it could have in childhood. Sometimes in relationships, people who have experienced CPTSD can be rescuers. They can seek to rescue or save people. Another thing too about being attracted to or wanting to connect with people who are abusive or hurtful is because that's what they know. And typically the brain wants comfort, and the brain finds comfort in things that it knows, not the unknown. So when someone experiences something similar to childhood, whether it's hurtful or not, whether it's painful or not, because it's familiar, because it's something that the brain knows, then the brain finds comfort and then thinks that it's safe, and the brain likes safe. Whatever it can do to make you feel like you are not in danger in any way, even if that means you are in danger, which sounds really backwards, but that's how the brain works, which is crazy. This kind of connects back to, being attracted to those partners who are abusive and hurtful, having skewed perceptions of perpetrators. So, being submissive to them, giving them power, feeling sadness or guilt at the thought of leaving them. These people long to be loved by their abusers. And so, in some cases, most cases, people will self-sabotage, or they'll do things against their own will in order to gain love or approval from this person that's hurting or abusing them, because that's how they performed as a child in order to connect with their, caregiver. And it's kind of the same relationship there, because that's all they know. I first learned that I experienced CPTSD probably 2 years ago, and it was really heavy for me when I first found out. I didn't want to accept it because I thought I've never experienced trauma, because I had that idea in my head that trauma was a big event, something big, violent. I didn't experience any big tragedies, other than death a couple of times. So it was really hard for me to wrap my head around it, but doing more reading and more research and learning more about it made me feel more comfortable with accepting it, and learning about how to heal from it made me find comfort in, working towards healing rather than just saying I'm a victim. One tool that's really helped me with CPTSD is a book that I found after some random post on Facebook that helped explain what CPTSD was, and it linked this book, which for the person that shared this post, it had helped them kind of work through their CPTSD, and it opened their eyes to how they could heal from it. So this is the book. It's called Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving. It's by Pete Walker. He has written another book as well called The Tao of Fully Feeling, which I haven't read yet, but this book is incredible for knowledge on CPTSD. It breaks down the different types of survival modes that your body can go into, so fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and it explains them thoroughly. It gives you a better idea of which one that you could be, because typically it's one or two. I realized that I freeze and I try and go into flight mode a lot. Another useful tool that I got from this was 13 steps for managing emotional flashbacks. Like I was explaining before, when you experience something that triggers an emotional flashback, what that means is whatever you're experiencing right now in the present moment, your body is reacting to it as if something in your past had happened that caused you to go into survival mode, put you in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and the way that you responded that first original time that you experienced that, when you thought that you were in danger and your body was trying to protect you, even though you're here in the present moment physically, your mind goes back to that first moment and puts you into the survival mode and tries to help you survive through the moment that you're currently physically experiencing. So realistically, mentally, you're not present. The nervous system gets activated, typically your heart races, your breathing changes, you could sweat, that sort of thing. But a lot of times people experience dissociation with this, and dissociation is, the way my therapist explained it to me, was your brain leaves your body. So the way she explained it was thinking of like a baby, sitting in little boppy chair. If it hears a loud noise or something, the baby doesn't know yet how to get away, how to flee. The baby can't flee, doesn't know where to go, doesn't know where the safest spot is. Just because the brain is so intelligent, it will dissociate, meaning it will like literally mentally leave the body and be like, bye, see ya. Because I'm not going to be here to experience any pain in the physical moment. So it does that to protect your body. It does that to protect you from whatever you're physically feeling in the moment because you feel threatened, you feel like you're in danger. So going back to that, that's called an emotional flashback. When you're in the physical moment, experiencing something dangerous, perceived, it's a perceived danger, not always actually dangerous. You have an emotional flashback that goes back to the original time it happened, and you're emotionally going to respond that same way you did the first time. Unless you heal, unless you work on that. And so there's, in this book, 13 steps for managing emotional flashbacks. And so I actually have them saved on my phone because this is something that I learned helped me get through those types of flashbacks, and I can refer back to it. So one of them, for example, number 1 is say to yourself, I'm having a flashback. So it's bringing your self-awareness to the moment, pulling you out of that past memory and bringing you right back into your physical awareness. Remind yourself, I feel afraid, but I'm not in danger. A lot of healing work with CPTSD happens when you reparent, is what it's called. When you kind of become your own parent and you bring yourself comfort and understanding and compassion and love, and you talk to yourself as if you're talking to your younger child, your inner child. So if you think about it, the person that experienced this perceived dangerous situation originally was probably young, probably a child. And so when you work on healing from this, you as your adult self can talk to that person who originally experienced that situation and give that person, that child, what they needed to hear in that moment but didn't get. And for me, myself, I've experienced this in hypnotherapy with my therapist. So really, I'm closing my eyes, I'm working on my subconscious thoughts and imagining how I was feeling as a child and thinking about what emotions I was experiencing, saying them out loud, not dismissing them in any way, acknowledging them, making them feel valid, and then going into my adult self and with the tools and the knowledge and the experience I have now, comforting that child and giving her what she needs. I know this is a lengthy video, but I wanted to thoroughly explain what CPTSD is and my journey with healing from it. Of course, it's an ongoing journey that will take, I'm sure, plenty of years, but I feel good about where I'm at right now. I hope you learned something today watching this video, and if you did, please give the video a thumbs up, hit the like button, subscribe if you'd like to see more videos. I plan on releasing some more videos covering some other topics that I've worked through in my healing journey. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.